My name is Tamra Pecora. I am Jamie Rita's mother, Jimmy's mother-in-law.
Okay. Um, let's go way back and tell me when you recall first meeting Jimmy.
The first time I met Jimmy, Jamie and I were going out to lunch, and she said, Mom, I'm dating this guy who's working at the other TV station. And we were going to Outback, and he met us there. And he couldn't eat lunch with us, but he just wanted to stop and say hi and meet me. And the very first thing he said to me was, "Hi, Mom."
How did, I assume you guys, got to know him better, obviously, as they dated and all that type of thing. How did he fit in with the family?
Jimmy fit in the family really well right off the bat with absolutely everybody, even my dad, who we were sort of a little concerned about. And, but he just, I've never met anybody that didn't instantly fall in love with Jimmy. He's just one of the most charismatic people that you would ever meet. He's just very outgoing, and he has a lot of stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when Jimmy came into the family right off the bat, he was not shy, and with him being a photojournalist, he more or less took over in the family. He just fit right in, and it was always Ernie, my husband, who was the picture taker, and Jimmy would just jumped right in there and started taking pictures of everybody. Would help me cook. I'm a really big, I love to cook and I love to have family dinners. Jimmy would always come help, but they always had guests over, and Jimmy made the best food. In fact, I still to this day call him and ask him for recipes. We have seen a lot with Jimmy being in the business he was in with Jamie. More so Jimmy, because Jamie was stationed in the at the office where Jimmy was out and about, and every time he goes somewhere, Daytona, Masters, he'd bring Ernie something home. Actually, when he went to the Masters, he brought my father, my brothers, and my husband something home from the Masters. He would always bring something home, and he'd always have stories to tell. So Jimmy fit in really, really well. Every time we had, they would come into town for the wedding to do the preparing and that. They stayed here, because they were already living there, and he was family. I mean, I think he fit in right in the very beginning. I mean, it just, we're a real warm family to begin with, and we welcome people with open arms, but it's really hard. I've never met somebody that didn't like Jimmy. Mm-hmm. He is that well liked. And if I could tell you this story, the day of the accident, we didn't get there. My son and my daughter-in-law went there that night to be with Jamie. Because they did the emergency surgery and, put the halo on him. My husband and I couldn't get there till the next day. And here we were expecting, when we went in, we were expecting Jamie and my son and my daughter-in-law. There was this giant waiting room. You're from up there, so you might, the hospital I'm talking about, it's huge. Mm-hmm. The waiting room, I mean to tell you, more than half of it was TV people. Mm-hmm. There had to be 50 people there in the waiting room. And they set up camp, and each and every one of them came over and talked to me and Ernie, told their story about Jimmy and Jamie and how they knew them. And the one man they had thrown on the phones at the station that day because they were getting so many phone calls. And he told us, I will never forget this story, he told us that Jimmy was so well liked, not just with, I think at that point he was with CBS, or I think it was CBS. He was so well liked. ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, the Sports Channel, ESPN, and Fox. He said the phone was ringing from all over the country because everybody knows him everywhere. Concerned, even the major networks were calling from their home bases in New York, and they wanted to know, word got out about him. And that just, we knew what kind of person Jimmy was, but this even made us more aware of, wow, this guy is really, really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter also, because she's in the business, it was the two of them together.
Mm-hmm. I know he's a huge sports fan.
Yeah.
So I guess that was a part of the job that he really loved, was getting to go to a
Yeah.
bunch of these sporting events.
He was so excited with each one. That's what really, really hurts, is I feel bad for him, because I sit there and I watch him watch TV now, and I watch him watch the sport events. He would have been there. He did the Daytona, like I said, and the Masters, and he did so many different sporting events. And I'm there, and he comes out of the bedroom. I ask him if he wants to turn on ESPN, what kind of sports he wants to watch. It just breaks your heart, Jay, because you know he wishes he could be there. I mean, the sad thing is, Jimmy doesn't complain. I'm handicapped, as you know, and I ask him, where's your patience come from? Jamie's hands are full, as you know, and here she is, trying to feed the baby, trying to make dinner, trying to feed Jimmy, and she never sits down and eats. She can't. She has to do everybody else. She has to worry about everybody else. We got in the habit of, when the baby was able to sit in the high chair and start to feed herself, Jamie would FaceTime me every day, and she would take care of Jimmy, cook the dinner and take care of Jimmy, and I would talk with the baby and keep the baby's attention. I would actually have dinner with the baby to help her out, being that we're 6 hours apart. I couldn't do that, you know. And but she just has her hands full there, you know, and just can't. I just feel so bad that we're not close enough, that we can't be there and help, so they could do more. You know, you talk about children and how they pick things up. And Spencer's just getting to the point now where she can speak in sentences. She's a little 2.5 maybe. And we were sitting there eating dinner. Jamie, Spencer says, she calls me Gigi, come on, Gigi, come on. And Jimmy, we were all in the dining room eating. Jimmy started having leg spasms very badly. And Spencer looked at Mommy, and she says, Mama, help Dada, help Dada. And I asked Jamie, because his legs will come off the stool part, and I asked Jamie, I says, does Spencer ever try to help him? She said, oh yeah. She goes over there and tries to pick up her legs and pick up his legs, and if she can't, she looks at me and goes, Mama, help Dada, help Dada. She knows no different. This is her dad. This is the way it is. She sent me a little video one day, and it was the sweetest thing. I don't know if you've been to their condo, but it's a real long hall. And you could see real small Spencer in her walker and Jimmy in his wheelchair. And that was Daddy and Spencer time. They would go all the way down to the end of the hallway and all the way back. And it was just so sweet. And, you know, because he can't really be a dad.
Right.
That's those little special times that he can have a little bit of Daddy and Spencer time. And I don't know if if Jamie showed you the little video too. Oh, it's so cute. They decided one day to put Spencer where his feet go in his chair, and you know how his chair goes back. Well, one day Jamie says, let's try something, Jimmy, and they put Spencer on the bottom of Jimmy's chair, and he went back a little bit. And if you've not seen it, I will show you this little video. She looked up, hi. Hi. And him, he's hi. And he's just, you know, you could just tell the love. Hi. She was just so excited. But those are their little special times together, you know. It's gonna, she's not gonna know any different. This is her and her dad's time. And, you know, I get worried sometimes, and Jimmy goes, she's okay, Tam Tam, I'm watching her, you know. It just breaks my heart that he can't. I have two nieces that were smaller when they first got married. They're one's in 9th grade now, so they were in early middle school, and Jimmy adored them. I remember him sitting in this chair at Christmas time and them crawling all over him, and they just loved him. And he nicknames for them, and it was just so sad when he got in his accident. They didn't know what to do anymore because they couldn't crawl all over him like they used to and get on the ground in a rough house with him. You know, when they go on a vacation, whenever they come here, which shouldn't be this great big event, but it is. And Jamie has to do everything herself. How she does it, I don't know, because she has to pack everything. She has to get everything in the car. And you know, they have to travel with 2 cars. They can't do just 1 car. And before she bought her car, they would have to rent a car for most of his equipment. Then she comes here, and Ernie usually will meet her at the hotel. But now that they have the baby, they bring the baby here first and then go to the hotel. So we keep the baby so she can do all the unloading. I mean, it takes so much for them just to come visit us. This was maybe about a year after the accident. She goes, we have a new normal. And she says, I'm taking down all of our old pictures, and I'm going to get pictures of him in the wheelchair, and you know, me and him. And she had tons of pictures made. She says, this is us now. We need to get on with our life with him being this way. And so she had all these pictures taken, and if you've been at the apartment, you have seen them. She tries very, very hard to do things that he could get involved with, that he could be, you know, a part of. It's a different way of life, because you want him to be able to do things, and it's sad because there's just some things that he can't do. Like, we're getting ready to go to North Carolina for my husband's mother's birthday, and she's going to be 95, and he can't go because they have stairs. So he's left out of some family doings, weddings, family weddings. A lot of times there's just not everybody's handicap accessible, you know. So it's really difficult that he can't, you know, do these things, some things.
He would have been the life of the party at those events.
Oh my goodness, if you would have, it's funny because, you know him because of, you know, this, but oh my goodness, yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Jimmy just, he loved to have fun. He was truly the life of the party. He really was. You know, I sit there, and if you ever get a chance to do this, I don't know if you're on FaceTime, go through his photos and look at the pictures that he has that you can look at. You're going to see Jimmy more, because it's of him cooking, it's of him out dancing, it's them getting together with all the TV people, going here, going there, and, you know, just, you know, doing they were always going somewhere. always, you know, for their honeymoon, they went to New Orleans. And I'm so glad they didn't put off their honeymoon for any reason, because they would have never had a honeymoon. And their vacations that they do have, I think they tried to do Edisto one more time, and it was very difficult. It was very difficult. What was so difficult about it was the fact that the place they had to get had to have an elevator in it now. And they always got a beach house. So they couldn't get just any beach house anymore. So everything they do has to be accommodating to his handicap. And so the last couple of years they haven't done it. And it's sad to see something that should have gone on for years and years come to an end.
You were talking about Jamie adjusting to all this and learning all this. Can you talk a little bit about how she's had to evolve and grow up, you know, to try to take all this on?
You know, she jumped right in the very beginning. Like I told you before, we went right away to Spartanburg Hospital, I believe is where he was in the hospital. And the first thing she did when she saw me, she grabbed me. She said, "Don't you cry." And I thought, where's this strength coming from? She was so strong. She says, "Mom, just don't cry." And they're like, I told you, there was at least 50 TV people in the room, and they set up like camp. Everybody brought food from all over, and Jamie just sat there. She didn't say much to anybody. She's a little bit on the quiet side to begin with, but we went to, then he got transferred 2 weeks later to Shepherd Center, and we went down for a week, a couple days later after they got there. And there's a place to Shepherd Center that has accommodations for family. They let them stay there for close to a month, I think it is. And some of their friends got the key from Jamie before she got there, and they filled it up with food, and they filled it up with flowers. We went, and we would take turns, because Jamie never went back to work. Jamie said, "Mom, I can't leave his side. He needs me. He needs me more than anything." And she would jump right in with the nurses. Shepherd Center's not like your regular hospitals. It's not like the nurses are there constantly. It's not like that at all. There's only like one nurse to so many people. So when they get a chance, unless it's an emergency, when they get a chance, they come. So Jamie was doing a lot. He has to be, for easier terminology, suctioned quite often. And Jamie learned it immediately. And the nurses would say, "Your daughter is amazing. Nobody has ever stepped in like she has." There was a young man in the room next door, and in the Shepherd Center, the floor he was on was for spinal cord patients. And they would, Jimmy was really in bad shape then and wasn't even in a wheelchair yet. He was still bedridden. And this one gentleman came over. He was a young man. I'd say he was probably mid-20s. And he came over, and he would talk with Jimmy and Jamie. And he said to me, he says, "Your daughter's amazing." He says, "My girlfriend and I were engaged." He said, "She left me." She said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this." And he says to Jimmy, he says, "You're so lucky." He said, "She's going to stay with you through this whole thing." A few people made remarks to Jamie in the beginning, "Are you going to stay?" She goes, "What do you mean, am I going to stay?" She said, "I had vows, for better or worse. I am standing by those vows. I love him. He's my life. And when she gets down, she thinks the alternative. What if he wasn't here? What if he didn't make it? And she's so grateful. She's so grateful he's there. It was sad, Jay. It was really sad, like through her pregnancy, because Jimmy has to go to bed early. They take him and put him in bed by 7 because they have to do range of motion and bathe him and get him in bed. So Jamie's alone a lot. And she's handled it quite well. But you know, hormones when a woman is pregnant, and she would, it would be so sad because she would keep her hormones to the side, so to speak, and no, she couldn't show them to Jimmy because she wouldn't want to upset him, because she didn't want him feeling guilty because he couldn't help her. But she would sit in the living room without the TV on and just cry. And what's sad is, like when Janie's sick, like through the pregnancy and that, she has to take care of herself. And in the blog that she has, people call me all the time and say, your daughter is amazing. There's people where I'm from, Ohio, hundreds of them that I'm friends with, that read her blog now and write me and just say, your daughter is so inspiring. She gives me hope in life. You don't meet people like her that often that has totally given her life to him, and she has. I mean, Jamie had a good job, and she loved her job. She had a great profession, but she says to me, Mom, I can't leave him. She says, this is where my life is. And I says to my husband, I says, you know, it's so sad. I says, because now everything is about Jimmy, but that's the way Jamie is. And like I said, when he was in the Shepherd Center, she learned everything. I remember one day we were in there, and he finally was put in the wheelchair, and we had an outing that day because they really try to do a lot for them in the Shepherd Center, and he wanted to be put back in his bed. And let me tell you what there is involved in putting him in the bed. They have the lifts on the ceiling at the Shepherd Center, and Jamie would help. Usually there was 2 of them that would come in, and then Jamie would help them too, because there's so much involved into taking care of Jimmy. She said, Mom, it was an hour and they still haven't come. She goes, I've got to get him in bed. I have got to get him in bed. And she says, I could do this. I know I could do this. She goes, will you help me? And Ernie helped her. Her father helped her with the lift because I can't. But I helped her undress him and get between the 3 of us, we got the lift on him. And I mean, she told us what to do. She was telling us what to do, and we got him in bed. Actually, I shouldn't say we. Jamie got him in bed. But they said at the hospital, all the nurses, every single one of his nurses told us that they were amazed by her. Everything that they did for him, Jamie wanted to know exactly. You teach me. I want to know how to do that, she said. And she knows how to do everything. She stays on them. And it's just like all the nurses. Jamie will not become friends with them. She says, Mom, they have a job. And I have to put that line there. I cannot become friends with them because I've got to make sure my husband's being taken care of. And I'm not here, they're not here to talk with me. They're here to take care of them. So But she still makes sure she has a life. She still takes Spencer. It's just sad because she does so much alone with Spencer. We don't get to see him for every holiday. That's sad. Normally they would come here. But she's just amazing. She really is. She's just amazing. She couldn't do anything. She wouldn't leave him. She literally would not leave him. She would wake up in the morning and be there by the time it was they would have him dressed and ready for breakfast. For years, until Spencer, probably turned into a toddler. Jamie fed Jimmy every meal. She wouldn't let anybody do it. She says, no, he's my husband. She says, I want to do that. I want to do that. So when he was in the hospital, she was there before every meal in the morning, and then when he was ready to go to bed at night. So Jamie has really no time for herself. She really doesn't. But like she says, that's their life. You know, she doesn't complain. She doesn't complain. I could tell when it's getting her down sometimes. I mean, it's sad that she's so young and bedtime has to be like 9 o'clock because she is exhausted because there's been so much to the day of taking care of Jimmy and taking care of the baby and having to do it all herself. Their apartment that they were in before was so small. You know, Jimmy's still young. He's in his mid-40s, I believe, and he still has a life. And so he should be able to go outside anytime he wants. He should be able to go into the kitchen even though he can't cook. Gosh, if only he could get his arms back at least, you know. But talk Jamie through it, you know, he needs a place where he can get around into the kitchen. The place before was quite tiny. He couldn't get in the kitchen at all at the other place. And every time we would go, he would ask Ernie, I'm tearing up the wall with my wheelchair. Would you figure something out, you know, to put on the walls for me? Because, you know, we're not going to get our deposit back. And so Ernie and Jamie, when we go there, she goes, Dad, I have a honey to-do list for you, because of course Jimmy can't do those things, and Jamie does as much as she can, but her dad has to do, you know, all those things that the man should be doing around the house. They need, you know, they're growing. They need a bigger place. They so need a bigger place. Spencer doesn't even have her own bedroom in this place, and she's at the age where she needs her own bedroom now because Jimmy has to have his own room, and the dining room the nurses have their office in. So they need a place that's wide open, of course, much bigger room, but yet they need a place where Jamie could still, if she wants to sit down in the living room, not have to worry about keeping Jimmy awake. So they need a place that's bigger. She shouldn't have to live in her bedroom. Jamie lives in her bedroom, and that bothers me to no end. Spencer has no yard to go play in. She needs a place where she can get out and play. This place that they live in now is much bigger than the one that they lived in before. And I like it because it's open, you know, to a certain extent, but it's definitely not big enough. I mean, it's just not big enough. It's just so sad that his life is one room to the next, one room to the next, just the 2 rooms, and that's it. It's just sad. Jimmy's a man of very little words anymore. I watched Jimmy. And I know a little bit about what he's feeling. I was young when I got hurt. I also got hurt in an accident at work. I was 30. Jimmy was a little bit older than that. And of course my accident is nowhere near the severity of Jimmy's. But I do watch him. And he was the life of the party, Jay. And that's what's so sad. is now he hardly talks. He doesn't complain. He doesn't complain much. But he doesn't hardly talk at all. He just survives. And it's sad to see that from somebody who was so jovial and loved life. He loved life. I mean, everything was a new experience to him. Everything he did was just so much fun. And he made you enjoy it. He had that gift. Him and I are we're more talkers than Jamie and I. Jimmy and I would go on and on and on and on. That Jimmy's not here anymore. And I miss that. Jamie misses that. He sleeps a lot. He has to do the shifting all the time. And so I never know if he's awake or if he's sleeping. So we'll be in the same room, just him and I, for hours, and he won't say a word. And I miss that Jimmy that used to be here. He has made remarks to Jamie. He says, "I'm sorry, that you have to do this." But Jamie's never made him feel. I have never seen her make him feel guilty, or I have never seen her act like, oh, here we go again. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. There's no time for me. Her one eye is always on Jimmy. We've seen him go through a lot, being sick. The year ago when he was extremely sick and almost died. And the doctor afterwards said to Jamie, this man should not be alive. And by all rights, with what he was going through, he says, I cannot believe he's still here with us. But at the same time, he did not want to go to the hospital. He's afraid. I know he's afraid. There's so much involved, so much could happen. He could be perfectly well 1 second and the next be totally downhill. It could just that quickly. There's so much involved. Like, for instance, when he had his stroke last week, the first thing he thought of, I don't know if you know this, but one time he was getting carbon monoxide poisoning from his respirator. It wasn't hooked up properly. And he was starting to act really funny. But when he had the stroke last week, that's the first thing he thought of. He says, Jamie, take me off the respirator. Because he was concerned he was getting, carbon monoxide. I believe that's what it was. And something could happen with the machine, and the machine totally malfunctioned. So you see the importance of those nurses knowing, and even Jamie knowing all this. But you could see fear in his face all the time. You could see he wants to jump out of that chair. He's never once said, gosh, I wish. We still have hope. We see all the new things that are coming up, and I'll text him, and it's sad because he says, that'll be after I'm gone. That'll be after I'm gone. I think he's lost hope. That devastated him. Being that he could not be the father of that child put him in the worst depression he was in, because Jimmy wanted children so bad. You knew he was meant to be a dad. Like I told you about my nieces all over him. He has nieces and nephews, and they all have nicknames for each other. That's the way Jimmy is. He has a nickname for everybody, and they have it for him. If there was a child around, Jimmy was playing with that child. So you knew Jimmy and Jamie were going to have kids. And then when she told me, she says, Mom, we went shopping, and she says, I've got to go get prenatal vitamins, and I just didn't say anything. And she goes, aren't you going to ask me any questions? And I said, no, I'm going to wait for you to tell me what's going on. She said, I want to have a baby. And I sat her down and I said, Jamie, are you sure this is what you want to do? Because you realize you're going to have to do everything yourself. You will have absolutely no help. She said, Mom, there's sweet single women out there. I think I could do it myself. At this point, they thought that they could use Jimmy. And I don't know how many times before they realized. And that was, I honestly, I think that was almost worse than the accident. So, but yeah, that was a very devastating time for Jimmy. I think he felt like his world was just totally taken away from him. And when it happened, gosh, Jay, gosh, you put on this, give them this beautiful wedding. Not even 2 months later, something like this happens. I'll never forget the phone call. She called me in traffic, did not know she was in this traffic jam, that it was because of Jimmy. And she got texted by somebody in her office that never texts because they couldn't pay their texting bill. And she says, I knew something was wrong. This person said, is Jimmy okay? And so she called the station, and from that moment, that strength came from nowhere. She was like, Mom, do you think I should try to pull off to the side and go up the median so I can get to him? And I said, no, you stay where you're at. Last thing we need is for you to get into a wreck or for you to get picked up, because you're not thinking it's going to be what it's going to be. And then she calls the station, she calls me back, and they're wanting to help at their end at the station because, see, they know what's going on. They know that Jimmy can't move. But of course they're not telling Jamie, and Jamie calls me back, she goes, Mom, they're life fighting Jimmy. And that's when I called Ernie at work and I said, you need to get off of work. I think we're going to have to run. And then she called me. Oh, well, this took hours. They were in this traffic jam for hours. And she called me a couple hours later. She says, Mom, they called me from the hospital and said, you're next of kin, aren't you? Kin. You're the next of kin. And she said, yes. And they said, well, we need you to get here. And that scared me half to death. The station called her again and said, Jane, pull over, because they knew the severity of it. And they wanted to go get her. They did not want her. And she, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I can make it. I can make it there. And she did. She did. She got there. She did, however, ask us to call his family. She did not want to make that phone call. She says, Mom, can you please make that phone call? And I said, of course. And then I handed the phone to my husband. I said, you do it. I can't do it. I'll do nothing but cry. But that was the only part that she couldn't do. That girl right there took over, and it was sort of sad though, Jay, because she wouldn't cry in front of anybody. And I knew she needed to, and I could hear her sobbing in her bedroom. And she said she just hold his pillow and she could smell him on his pillow. But she went into herself and just wouldn't even let me hug her. She wouldn't say much, and you sit there and you wonder, what is she thinking? What is she thinking, But she was so strong. She's always been so strong in front of Jimmy. She's always been so strong. She doesn't break down in front of him. She's never been like, why did this happen? Why us? Why us? She tries to find the positive. And she says, okay, this is our life. This is the way it's going to be. Come on, Jimmy, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. No matter how hard it is, we're going to do this. We're going to do that, Like I said, they don't, I don't see them argue. She will not do that. She just refuses to do that. From day one, that girl said, my life is no longer my life. My life is Jimmy's life. I have to be with him. I need to be by his side. I need to make sure he's taken care of at all times. And she has been this strength that I didn't know existed.
You're a mom, and this is your little girl,
Yeah.
and you're looking at everything. Knowing what you know today, do you have any regrets that Jamie married Jimmy Moore?
Not at all. Absolutely not at all. My husband didn't leave me. She saw that. She knows that we are very strong. We don't run. It's just what she was dealt. It's what poor Jimmy was dealt.